player class and a standard enemy class, where you could just create an enemy, and each enemy would internally have a state that would determine its type and the AI you would use. So you could pretty easily just create an enemy, give it a number, and that would be the enemy that was created.
And how many enemies do you have? 3?
We had 4 or 5 different types.
We had actually 6.
We had 3 different sprites, and then 6 behaviors combined.
Okay, that's cool. Is it like 2 behaviors always for the same ones, or do they kind of mix and match?
It's usually 2 behaviors for the same.
That's better, I guess. Because they behave consistent.
Right.
Okay.
So we also had standard draw functions, so you could easily create, if you wanted to, an additional enemy class, which we didn't. But we have...
You can extend it with that.
Right.
Okay.
We just had a small database of what keys were pressed at the time. So one person wrote an input, like handler, another person's could just look at this little database and know what keys were pressed at what time.
Cool. Okay.
So it's a pretty simple loop. We just updated the background, displayed everything to the back. We updated all the objects. We drew all those objects, drawn in the middle, so they got put on top of the background.
Approximately how many lines of code on the client?
1,300. So, and then we just displayed the HUD on top of all of that. You can see here we have our parallax display, where we had several different images drawn at different speeds. So that was a nice touch.
That's a snippet there of how this code, the background works with 3 layers.
Right.
It's nice. It's a very beautiful background. It's one of the real highlights of the game.
And then server hooks should be on the next page, or this page after. One of the important things we did, this was one of a game task for a week, was getting the control field down to it. Because as a top-down scroller, really, there's not much space to go around, and controlling it is a really key aspect into how the player feels about it. So we didn't just do, not even just a fixed velocity where if you press a key, it instantly be at the top speed.
All right.
Not only did we accelerate, but we also had some little variable acceleration. You can see we divided by the velocity.
Nice.
So at low speeds, you accelerate faster. And that made a really good feel to the game that people liked.
There's a quote in one of our lectures about control is that in video games, control is half the battle, and then it's the other half too. I think it's one.
And it's user interface.
Yeah.
So trying to keep it simple, we had, as we were seeing in some of our tech problems, we have an actual server running this, but we didn't have that installed on all of our workers or all of our programmers' machines. So what we did was we just had hooks in our code.js big file. So we would just have a simple like return true on our get initial shield. But when we integrated it with Chris on his server side, he could go into those 3 places and replace those lines of code with what he needed.
I see.
And that way we didn't have to deal with the server, and we could just start it up ourselves on our own computers. But he
Okay,
could
that's
still.
elegant.
All right. So here's the server. I used Meteor, which is a Node framework, which it's like brand new. It's really beta, but it worked pretty well. I had that problem with SSL certificates. For some reason, Facebook stopped saying that they could serve our game on the Facebook canvas without HTTPS. So I had to quickly write something for it, and Meteor does not support SSL, so I had to write an Nginx reverse proxy to handle the SSL for Meteor, and then send over the data to Meteor. And so also for the server-side Facebook calls, which included the scorekeeping and the shop code, you need server-side code running, and unfortunately there's no Node Facebook SDK, so I could not write it with Meteor, and so I actually had a separate Apache server running that did some PHP, and there's a few scripts that gets called when we need the score for the buy feature.
Okay.
Alright, so as an example of our enemy variety, you see two pictures of different enemies right here. On the top left is our basic enemy, which would be enemy 1. It just comes straight down at you and shoots every now and then. And then to the right is another enemy sprite. This enemy would be the enemy that shoots homing bullets. And the bullets actually track the player ship as the player moves, so they're slightly harder.
And these are two other different types of enemies. On the left, we have a stationary enemy that rotates towards where your ship is. So right now, the player is on the right. If you were to move to the left, the enemy ship would also move to the left, like rotate towards the left and fire. On the right is our boss ship. He kind of tracks the player and tries to avoid the player current position, but you can like try to trap him against the side and then move away so he runs into your bullets. He also has a higher firing rate.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, pretty nicely
And then here's just a little example / picture of all our power-ups. On the left is the shield with the shield icon. And the middle is the double shot, and the right is the super
done.
power.
So when the ship has the red triangles, it means he's
That means it's
invulnerable?
shielded. Yes.
What, does it have like a timer on it?
No, the shield lasts until you're hit, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Good.
And
That's nice.
that is it.
Any questions from the class? Good.
How long does the game last? And do you guys have different levels?
The level, we have a wave system. We don't have a end game, however, each wave has its own boss.
Okay.
So every wave will get harder than the one previous to it, with
Okay.
some more enemies and stronger enemies.
Okay. And
Eventually,
so-
you always die.
Yes, and it just keeps going.
The more waves you do, like you sort of ratchet up their intensity. you
Right.
know, That's really nice. Really nice.
It's part of what the analytics are for, to judge if we're ratcheting it up enough.
Right.
So if it turns out that one wave is not sufficiently difficult, or it's too difficult, we can retake it.
Right. Nice. Okay. Good. Great work. Okay. Thank you.